Hello everyone. My name's Curly. I'm a proud Gunai woman and I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians here, the Wurundjeri or the Wurundjeri mob, Werrong mob and the Kulin Nation. It's such a treat to be down here. I've done that acknowledgement maybe 3 or 4 times today, but every time I say it I keep thinking of the river. And I went for a little walk along that river this morning and yeah, it's always real special to be here with everyone, so thank you for having me back again. Blak and Bright, and thank you Jane for an incredible program. And yeah, keen as to share this stage with all these wonderful speakers tonight. I'm going to be reading from Returning, which came out last year with Magabala, and I'm also going to read a poem called Bungba Mandu, which is all in Gunagara language, and I wrote this after the passing of a language teacher in our community and my pop sister, my gran, Ani Velma Mulcahy. And when the Fremantle Biennale came to me and said, Curly, we'd like for you to celebrate your Ani in any way that feels right, I said, well, the whole thing, I'm going to write my first poem entirely in language, using the language that she taught me and the language that's being celebrated in our community by Auntie Sharon Halls and the work of Jim Barrett as well. And it's all derived from the collections from Matthews at the time from the Gunagara people. So my love to Ani Val. This originally was a work that was shown up in lights. It was a drone show with 160 drones programmed. And when the community came to me and said, Kelly, we want this drone show happening, I said, well, I want all the mob in our community to learn the language and to dance in this story. And so elders taught our younger men how to do smoking ceremony. We had all of them and their babies come and do smoking, and then we had the kids from all the local surrounding schools come and dance up this story. So when you hear it, maybe you can see them dancing too. Bungba Mandu, Gababa Dumbuk Yila Gadbawari. Rise as the sun, all of you, like smoke to carry bad energy far away. Bungba Mandu Gababa Gagarang Nanawao Mariging. Rise as the sun, all of you, like rainbow on the other side of thunderclap. Bungba Mandu Gababa Maga Diwa Gimbu Dorigung. Rise as the sun, all of you, like axe, digging stick, a spear between several strikes. Bungba Mandu Gababa Ganbi Gana Bangung Baramagang. Like light from the fire, a mountaintop, a thick vine for climbing, a whirlwind. Gababa Marawanyi Bumanimai. Darambayang Gadawarima Gabugang. Like a diamond python goes up the tree hunting for eggs. Gababa Wambulang Yunga Mani Garat Ninawau Daura. Like the black cockatoo singing rain across country. Bungba Mandu Gababa Budyan Wagawu Banga Nirang Yarang. Rise like the sun, all of you, like the bird people of the dreaming. Dance and play and make many good. Yugu gamuwang dalinan yin wulu. Yirdaringa mandu yadang, burandu darang. Speak mother tongue, that one only. Dream pretty tomorrows, you all, a future. Nan gulawu, yin muli bimbinganya gulanyan. Walk and work together, and this beautiful dawn belongs to us. Mananyunu, Bidya Mandu Gababa, Bagali Madira, Walwul, Wangirli Marimbidya. Come here, go down like the sun, you all, like falling stars, falling water. Listen to the Milky Way, Mammai Gababa Garubang, sleep like rocks, Burandu Gulanyan Bumba. Tomorrow we rise like the sun. Thank you. Thank you. I want to read... I'm not timing myself, which is real bad because we have a set time, eh? So one of you's nod and be like, get off. Blak is beautiful. So I was thinking about beauty standards. I wrote this before I wrote for Vogue or Marie Claire, so apologies to those mob there. I do love your work and I like the direction you're going in. But this is after Ziggy Ramo, whose iconic Black Thoughts album just is such a wonderful piece of, of music and literature in its own right. And after Sonia Renee Taylor, who is also a poet and who taught me that the body is not an apology. They didn't have auntie or sister girl on the cover of Vogue. Marie Claire and Vanity Fair fronted models with straight hair and skin lighter than mine, crisped in tanning tanks to acquire our melanin-dipped limbs, while denying the racism we faced behind the scenes. They had visible ribs, Botox lips, overnight nose jobs and tummies who got sucked in and then tucked as they aged. No stretch marks, no greys. Everything monetized to beautify, wax and peroxide to bleach and pluck, lipo and dieting to shuck and drain, everything not beautiful away. Tide gone out. Skinny ankles meander through rocky outcrops where young uncles teach nephews how to pocket knife shuck oysters for delicate oysters for family. Full-breasted mums nurse chubby bubs on near-ripe pig-face-laced sands. Everywhere, juicy brown lips part for Earth's generous gifts, chins meet sun, saltwater sustenance becomes human, afternoon clouds blush at young ones who paint themselves with ochre. Sea sprays carry away their giggles. When it dries, they wash crackled patterns in shallow waves. Cream curdles billow, fogging nannies wade nearby with earthy art. She twists and sways, teaching her littles to dance for Bungajan, entranced, everywhere they look they see. Blak is beautiful. Thank you. I'm going to read 2 auntie poems. One's called Auntie Time, and it's for my sister Pip and my nephew Sam. Pippi is always howling at the moon when it's full, which my nephew Sam is 3 and he just can't get it. He's like, what are you doing? What is this crazy auntie thing that's going on? Pip lives on the other side of the world, so even when she's in the States and there's a full moon, she'll send us a video of us howling and we have to howl back. Welcome to Howl Along. When my sister comes home on the full moon, we howl at her, teaching our nephew new tricks on the balcony under swinging mountain ash and gums who raised us too. He is learning to talk, but doesn't have a word for this yet, for our wily time marking, for familial noise making with belly breath billows in cold Gunungara air. He laughs at us as if one of the old people, as if remembering this lesson from a time before. Aroo! We empty our lungs and feel still suburban night with the first words the dingo spoke. Aroo! I point him to that songline there, the one who holds this animal's story. Ow, ow, ow! He can't walk it yet, and doesn't have a name for the escarpment, but we don't need those for him to know that he belongs here, that this is his story, and his song was written in Sinew long before he came along, that the ridgeline moulded his very spine, and he is one and the same with country, that we move in unison with mother's time, with the night, with the light of the moon soft on smiling cheeks as we aroo and renew the trust that all is as it should be. Thank you. Time check. One more or no? Anybody? Don't know. Cool. Tell me off. Tell me get out of the way. This one's called Na True. It's a poem. When I was a kid, I grew up with my Auntie Val, the one who taught me language, and she'd be this like, oh, you're the deadliest thing on the planet, you. Look at you. And I'd be like, what, Aunt? What are you? She's like, those new shoes, look at you, you're going to run like an Olympian. And I think that's something every auntie ever has done. has really jacked up a little person to make them feel like that the sun just shines out of them and they're the best thing ever. And they're telling fibs all the time, right? But it goes such a long way, and it's such an important part of being an auntie. So this is not true. And I must preface, I grew up with a Greek family, so the line in here that you hear is out of cheek, but out of love and respect for Yaya and Bapu. Not true. I tell the kids we saddled megafauna, galloped a protodon as if infinite infantry before we had armies, when there were ice ages to survive instead of the colony. They say, Auntie, don't be silly. Nah, true. I tell the kids we're the oldest living culture on the planet, that our gadgets outdo iPhone everything, that the Greeks didn't invent it, we did. Auntie. Nah, true. I tell the kids that before there was royals, there was us. That BC is supposed to read BK, they meant before Kuris. Auntie. Nah, true. I tell the kids they've got to forget the limitations they've been set, believe elders before the internet, understand AI is Aboriginal intelligence, not falsified fact. Auntie. Not true. I tell the kids, baby, just go be you. Don't pay much attention to the hearsay of what they say. Stay true to the sovereignty flowing through your veins. Stay true to the kinship and ancestral ways. Stay true to all you've inherited, uninhibited by what you heard. Thank you.
Hello. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge Mob and that sovereignty was never ceded, and also to pay my respects to Jane Harrison, who has put on such an incredible festival for us all here, and also to recognise all of the staff with Black and Bright and the volunteers that can make this happen, and also to my esteemed other poets here. It's a real pleasure for me to be able to speak on the same stage as you. I'm going to read, well, my name's Graham Ackhurst. I'm a Kukumini man and poet who grew up in Meanjin in Brisbane, and I currently work at the University of Technology Sydney on Gadigal country in the Eora Nation. I'm going to read 3 poems tonight, and the first 2 are in conversation with each other and talk to a time that I spent living in the United States during COVID. This first one's called Empire Builder. I was living with my wife in Queens. COVID was relenting. We decided to circumnavigate what is now the USA in a sleeper on Amtrak. The thudding rhythm of carriage on track is the music of memory. The sound of drilling into the past, ploughing through white clumps and drifts of snow that give little resistance. At Union Station, Chicago, I run my hand over the thick red line of a map that marks the empire builder's route across the continent towards Seattle. Lake Michigan is a giant light blue iris waking in the morning frost that stills me. 3 reservations the empire builder goes through. Fort Peck Reservation in Montana, home to the Anishinaabe, Nakota, Lakota, and Dakota peoples. The Fort Belknap Reservation, also in Montana, home to the Ananan and the Nakota. The Blackfeet Reservation, home to the Siksikatsaapi people. We are leaving. The train whistles. The lake blinks unseen. Thud, thud, thud. The motion lets me float. Under my breath, I give thanks to the Ojibwe, the Odawa, the Potawatomi, and Miami for having me on their country. In time, I wish to write and sit in the viewing carriage and witness eternity. The carriage is full of white ghosts whose reflection in the windows drift. They mimic the pale, snow-filled landscape that will never be theirs. At dusk, somewhere in Wisconsin, the fading light refracts off the white ground and falling snow in points and shards and wisps of colour. I am transported in reverie. I think of my grandmother taken to the mission on Lardle country. I think of my mother raised under the Act. The wheels are crunching, sliding, steel on steel. The horn trumpets calling the past. There is much hurt in this place too. There is much. There is much pain in this place too. There is much. There is. There. Under steel and carriage. Under snow and light. There is rock and dirt and shale and hurt and pain and history. And the thing that binds it, the thing that holds the universe in song, the thing that binds it, the thing that binds is blood. Thank you. This next one is titled New York City. Living with my wife in Queens, we watched news and I tried to fail at prose as I was taught until something better gripped my trembling hands. The faces of my MFA peers were framed in sorrow. We had Friday happy hours on Zoom, which meant little but was necessary. Hospitals overflowed. Boxed images of refrigerated trailers outside white-walled institutions held me. 7 p.m. The window opens. I bang on a pot with a wooden spoon. I cheer and am reminded. Grandma was taken as a child to Mornington Island Mission on Lardle Country. That evening, after hugging my wife tightly and saying and hearing the words we both needed to continue on, I dreamt over oceans. I dreamt of my family. It is 7 p.m. The window opens. I bang and bang on the pot. In the rhythm, thud, 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 thud. My cheers become a mantra of please to my dead grandmother, whom I never met. Over the echoes of fear and gratitude circling that too large city, my strained voice is but a hoarse whisper in the fading spring light. Help me fail, Nan. Please, please, please help me fail, Nan. Help me fail and fail again. Thanks. And this last one's called Bird's Nest, and it was during the fires in Australia in 2019. And I was living in New York at the time and seeing Australia burn from the other side of the world. And it reminded me of my place and where I grew up in Mianjin. And there's a cemetery not far from where I grew up, and it's full of German graves. It's called Nunda Cemetery. And I wrote a sort of a speculative poem piece about, with that in mind. Bird's Nest. At Nunda Cemetery, full of German graves, I walk past stringy bark trees filled with the sweet song of magpies. I grew up close on York Street, recall, loitering, dark heat of summer evenings, friends from school I no longer talk to. We drank goon and smoked cigarettes. We toppled over foreign names. We roughhoused, collecting history in our cut and grazed knees. At the foot of the cemetery, a small body of water collects ash falling from the sky like European snow. Gravel crunches. under thick boots chafed and warned that have walked troubled country. I amble and watch flecks of ash settling on black water through holes in my gas mask. The magpie's song turns to warbled chokes, and mosquitoes swell from the darkness, knowing my closeness. They hunt my skin. Struck by traces of light, the ash rests lightly on a broken place. I gently tow the flakes into piles. I wish to make a man from ash. I displace my mask and gloves. I attempt to form man from sky. But ash is not pliable like snow. I cough and choke with magpies and blood throbs. I continue my work earnestly, yet ash is not pliable like white snow. There is no grey man built up from the land. Rather, I've moulded the ashen pile of a bird's nest, and slowly, slowly, the edges peel away in the hot breeze. I wipe my hands. They are black with ash and time. In the swirling of light and ash and chokes and buzzing, I am struck by a deep wish of assembly with my friends and childhood. Thank you.
God, what a pleasure to go after you two. Thank you so much. It's the first time I've read both of your work before, but it's the first time I've heard you speak, and it's always, as it is with poetry, just so amazing to hear the words spoken. My name's Nika Lehman. I'm a descendant of the Trawulway people of northeast Tasmania, Lutruwita, and grew up in Nipalina, Hobart. I've been living here for 9 years. Came here to pursue further study and stuck around because I've just met the best, most brilliant people here and I love it. Struggling to make the choices, but kind of love also to select poems on the fly based on what other poets end up reading. So I thought maybe I'd read a few COVID-related poems too. Unlike Graham, like Graham, I couldn't go home from Naarm back to Tassie, but it was just the Bass Strait that I couldn't get home on the other side of the world, but nevertheless. This poem's called The Well. Just try and stop a mind rolling back from cooked fish in a clear horizon. Furthers up along the pier, just quick food and all these bodies blow on hot bones in bitter wind. Urban dykes befriend their scraps, naming loudly as they go. A rib in sheer ivory, a rib in sudden spike, debased fish spirits, cosmetic insignia, city sky tonight. Bones fling out to silted Naarm, to silver Port Phillip Bay. Unceremonious, my dykes feed translucent crabs. They breed madly, now it is May. Old country discourse is further adrift. The Bass Strait well harks back. Mukanikapawa, a well of ocean waves and bones not yet with grave. Oh, my island and its silent rejections, my island and its returns. Like the great white that follows a too hot seal, I am going out and coming back. All Nikapawa to the island are generative and not fully formed. Each view framed by Mukaseeing shore, a healthy snake made of mist, a mountain at the sea, a shell that waits in needled grass. Here they are, living the classics. I recall weeks of bed depression, hiding under blankets, reading the debates, whole PhDs written by Brits on whether we ate fish. So well studied and so well told, it takes art and isolation to stay here. I feel bad for my partner. With no utopia, there is just nostalgia. but there is always some fish left over. It is always on my behalf. And then, as soon as the boundaries. As soon as the borders reopened, I went straight home. And this poem, called Pieman Heads, is about a trip to the west coast of the island. And a little tourist trip we took, my partner and I at the time, we took down the river. I try not to bring impressions with me as we step from the boat. The she, Miss Arcadia too, connects us with new journeys, even if our touching irked the helmsman. Pissed up over the sand dunes, among skeletons still standing and countless pairs of feet, John said this continent's first portraits were marked in sand, used to tell community by their souls. Breakers quaked like an old TV, the spray was waking me up. At the end of the bar, I speak is too hard, wondering again if I'm too much. Do you think all my self-evidence in landscape is a bit of a bore? My instructions to look at this stick? Here could be the final outpost of the world, where infinity of futures come to die. The government's need for nuclear narcissism, old friends shaking hands with turned backs. Marsden taught us threat in all the wrong people. Would he approve of making love here? And then I thought I'd read a little weird poem that's unpublished. If I can find it. Oh yeah. It's based on, you know how, I don't think it was actually approved, but I think it might have been in the country, desert country that's up the top of South Australia, maybe APY lands. But the earth is perfect for deep time waste depositories where they have like really deep holes in the ground. And I was thinking a lot about them and how weird they're kind of, how they mix up your head with temporality and like thinking about this deep future, but also like nuclear waste so deep in the ground. Anyway, this one's called Deep Time Waste Engagement. There was a tunnel that went down into the earth, not sideways, straight down. I put my head down in it. You could feel the rock was tense, like a neck. It did not say hello. It did not receive my voice with its temporary capacity for warmth. Even when I tried to greet it in the old ways, it never answered hello. And this final poem I'll read is more of a, well, they're all pretty prosy actually, but this one's really prosy. It's called Sea Glass, and it was inspired by a queer walking tour, queer history walking tour that I did with two settler people of old Hobart Town in the colonial days. Super, super interesting. Van Diemen's Land was like the hotbed of gay sex, even though it's not really represented that way. Even at the time, it was considered the Sodom of the South Seas. It has such a reputation. Anyway, I was like, was there any white, black gay sex in those times? I don't know, maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. But anyway, I had to go at it. Down by the water were all the couples because all the bars on the hill were closed. This side of the river looked towards the sun, so the end of the evenings was magic. Morning twilight is like a good kiss, there without exception and then gone. While dusk lingers on what's come before, dawn threatens to take the past away. They had met outside the Sealers Bar, and outside Michael stayed, with the Blaks, Irish, and worst of the drunk children. Michael was drunk too, and too drunk to remember Tangana's name. Tangana had known plenty of Michaels, more so in the past year. Michael's excitement was a sort of confidence. To him, things felt preordained, like he was his own creator. If he thought something, it was true, like the world was changing and he was in it. That was his truth and the colonies. Frills and pink satin roughed up on cobblestone under lamplight. Tangana recognised the Irish thieves, caught posing as up-late women. Tangana loved to watch the men's loud behaviour, where laws seemed remade in the damp stone night, but law was the wrong word. This whole in-language laughed, calling him in like an open mouth. The mouth was wide and black. The further they walked down the hill, the more the rocks gleamed and stank of blubber. When Tangana caught Michael's loose feet on the grease, it was the first meeting of their lips, chins, hands and mouths. It wasn't Michael's first time, but it was his first with a crow. And so further down they went, until the private of the cove. Tangana took off Michael's boots. Lodged in his flesh was a shard of glass. This glass would outlast the evening, smoothed down by unending tides. Plucked, then abandoned by wandering hands, the glass's lustre was mistaken for quartz, a local mineral now famous at the cove. Lit by the right light, the brochure said, it left everything sparkling at dawn. Thank you so much.
Yurdumarang, Yuwani di Junin, Warajriyina, Gandagaidi, Marnambijadi. Hello, my name is Janine Lane and I belong to the Wiradjuri people from southwestern New South Wales on the Murrumbidgee River. I'd like to acknowledge my elders before I read here tonight. And I'd also like to pay my respects to the stolen land that I've been living on for the past 8 years, which is the Wurundjeri peoples of the East Kulin Nations, and pay my respect for having the privilege of being a visitor here and living here. I'd also like to acknowledge all other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here this evening, and I would also like to acknowledge my solidarity with stolen and occupied lands. And tonight, my heart is in Gaza. I'm reading to you this evening from a collection called Gori Mara, which is Wiradjuri word, means to gather. And this book is then called Gathering. But I think before I read the book, I should, it's my cultural responsibility to do what I call the politics of recognition and say that this collection is a moment that's part of a greater, much greater momentum, and it's a gathering made possible and brought to fruition by the support and encouragement of many, particularly the women in my life. So reading a few poems from Gori Mara. I'd like to start with the first poem, and this book consists of some poems that are 3 lines and some that are about 7 pages. So this one's called Blak Poetry. Blak poetry is like Mulyan, the eagle, unbounded by fences, bodies of water, or concrete buildings. It soars. And the second one I'd like to read is a longer piece, which I was asked to write also during COVID, so perhaps that is a bit of a theme, in response to an exhibition at the Murray Art Museum in Albury on Mama, also on Wiradjuri, so also on country And in response to, this is an ekphrastic piece in response to Archie Moore's work. 2020 vision. I was born on stolen land. My Gunninarung mother raped, my grandmother too, my auntie's my mother. I am a link in a bigger chain. I am not told what happened in 1861, in 1887, in 1907, in 1924, in 1961. I don't need to be, I just live it. I am 7 generations after invasion, first in my family to graduate from high school. My father's addicted to grog, my mother's to delusion. I made it through my teenage years. I should have been right, but I still need something to get me through the night. I'm not cured, not even close. I'm recovering. I still smoke more than I should. I gave up drinking one day at a time. I still laugh. I still feel. I'm not a victim. I'm a survivor. There is no theory for black trauma, just sheer blunt force, hit, cut, tear, smash, break. And if there are any pieces left, you pick them up, mend them, stick them back together again. No time to sit down and write a book afterwards. Our good news never makes it on the radio, the TV, the newspaper, the classroom, the office, the street, the bus, the tram or the train. We have victories. Every day is a victory. We are still here. They tell us there's a pandemic on. People are getting sick. People are losing their jobs, their homes, their lives. And when they say people, they mean white people. We are still treated like flora and fauna, people in name only. There is a war on. What else do you call it? Black people dying in police cells, women still not being heard, girls still being raped, young black fellas 26 more times likely to end up in jail than white fellas, and they still take our children over and over and over and over again. And I was born on stolen land, and my children are born on stolen land, and there's a pandemic in this country, and it began in 1788, and there is still no vaccine in 2020. Only resistance to wake up every day stronger than all our traumas again and again and again and again. On Mandar Guru, and here's a short one. Before I write another poem, I'll pause and consider the violence committed by the paper that it's written on. Of all the things that came to colonise us, I think paper was probably one of the most dangerous, or the word, or the writing. Another short one. History is not the past. History isn't even what happens. History is just another story labelled as truth. And this one, also that I wrote in response to the Mama exhibition, and this one it was also in response to a wonderful Wiradjuri artist called Nicole Faunchu. And it's called While We're Waiting for Armageddon. We've been promised several endings while we're waiting for Judgment Day since the prophecy of Armageddon, the ultimate struggle between good and evil, and Dante predicts a raging inferno, and Yeats sees desert birds, darkness descending, a grotesque beast slouching to Bethlehem to give birth to a monster, not a saviour, and T.S. Eliot says not with a bang but with a whimper, and Robert Frost thinks of fire and ice, and Edwin Brock says the 20th century will kill us, but that has been and gone. Nostradamus predicted the King of Terror in 1999, but he is late, and all other doomsday dates have been a no-show. Michelangelo had us descending damned into hell, and Edvard Munch saw a silent scream before a purple sky. And Ronald Reagan told us in 1980 that we may be the generation that sees Armageddon. And artists, poets, prophets and politicians promised us the end of the world. And while we wait, climates change, continents heat, ice melts, birds drop from the sky, more animals appear on extinction lists than living on lands, rivers are fished, oceans polluted, wars are fought in the name of peace, things fall apart, bit by bit. The world is destroyed by small acts of forgetting, and the centre does not fall in a blazing comet of glory to the earth to be filmed as fodder for social media. The centre crumbles around us. Each tiny hole goes unnoticed, and the world will die by denial, end in oblivion, annihilated by amnesia, while we're still waiting to see it on the news the next day. And I think I've got time for one more. Along the same lines as the one I just read. Hang on, sorry. Your last river. For the last time I saw my river. When a body is sick, it lies in a bed, shrinks away, is gone forever. The bed is empty. When a river gets sick, it loses colour, fades, shrinks in its bed, dries up, and dies. And water has a perfect memory. And the river says, remember me this way, like I am your last river. Gone is not forgotten, but you can't drink memory, nor will morning quench your thirst. Think of me like I'm your future, your first and only love, like I am your last truth, because I am, like you will die without me, because you will, like I am your last river, because I might be. Mandangu.
That was amazing. Can we have another round of applause for Anne here? That was truly phenomenal. I was nodding my head and giggling and just enjoying it, and really appreciate the way that you bring so much grit to your poetry. My name's Laniuk. I'm a Larakia Kungarakan and Guruji woman from Darwin, Northern Territory. Our ancestry spreads across the top up there, but also dips down into the desert. I was rearranging the poems in my head of what order was I going to do things in and what poems am I going to perform. But COVID seems to be the theme, and I'm here for it because I have a poem that I wrote during 2020. I had gone to Wellington to do a 2-month intensive. I was only supposed to be there for 2 months. I ended up being there for a year. They shut the borders and I was stuck there. And so then I became friends with Nadine, who's coming in virtually after me. So I hope that she can see me somewhere. I was hoping that I would walk backstage and see her, but it's virtual. We're so happy to have you, Nadine. speaking to the theme of the bushfires in 2019. When I was in Wellington, I'd been approached to write a poem for a climate change anthology with stories from Aotearoa. I happened to be there, so they very, generously invited me to write a poem, but I was in a mood. I was pretty, we were all struggling with COVID, and, I was still sitting in the grief of the fires of 2019, and so they were like, oh, do you want to write a poem? And I was like, yeah, I'll write your fucking poem. So it's called So You Want an Indigenous Poem. Bless them. So you want an Indigenous poem about climate change and youth apathy, about social media and newspapers, talkback radio and TV, about rising waters and all the plastic straws in the sea. A climate change poem that assures you that I've been seen and you've been a good ally because you've seen me. So I write a fire poem that explains I couldn't sleep as our totemic animals singed to the earth, and in felt unison our spirits screamed the 7 p.m. news comforted white loss as our lands burnt for weeks. This sacred loss has got me feeling numb. The colony has got me feeling empty. It's a warning poem about ignoring the people of the land, a poem that makes you feel so good because settler guilt got you feeling so bad. Now fighting feels impossible and you have the luxury to not even try. You'll find a few Black Lives Matter accounts, click like and then subscribe, and I'll keep writing poems that no one ever really reads. I'll have sympathetic audience members approach, ask my opinion, and then just proceed to talk over me. And I'll go home to a house I pay rent for on land that was illegally seized, listen to someone lecture about long showers, then watch colonizers cut down job-rung birthing trees, and I'll say 1,000,000 times over that healing of land requires ceremony, that the health of our earth requires more than just solar panels, it requires spiritual reciprocity. And colonizers will smile at the magic of my native savagery. But all conversations stop dead in their tracks when the savage native starts to talk about land back. So I'll write 30 poems that find different ways to say, we survived your invasion, your ongoing attempted genocide. We survive you stealing our children, your Christian lies. We are surviving your white supremacy, your violent capitalistic tendencies, your ongoing resource thievery, your greed and your audacity, your appropriation of our cultures, putting money in your hands. It's your lack of connection to who you are and from where you began that has brought us to this place of inconceivable loss of spirit and of land. So we keep resting and resisting, finding ways to heal and to mend. We've survived your shit before, and believe me when I say we're going to do it again. Always was, always will be. Thank you. Bless them. They were really lovely editors. They were really, really lovely to work with. I was in a mood. Most of my poems are written when I'm in a mood. And here's another one about my ex. You ruined me. You made my senses accustomed to the racing extremes like fucking MSG. You gave life, flavor. Sunsets were endless moments. Chinese restaurants were royal banquets where we had each other's undivided attention. You, the only human, and I, your only Eve. The world watched on in awe and envy. This is what true love looks like. And so the taste of you became the color of spring. The smell of summer sun showers and the sigh of autumn night flowers. You made every inch of my skin sing. Pushing trolleys down cobblestone streets, you swung me around and said you wanted only me. I let the rain kiss my cheeks and never believed they would know the thunder of tears again. Losing you left a sour taste in my mouth that sugar and spice couldn't wash out, and I scraped my tongue to try and forget how delicious you were. I loudly proclaimed that you were my least favorite flavor, and fuck it, whatever, go on and enjoy her. I don't need your delicious dumplings anyway. But secretly, even though you're not mine anymore, I still pick with my fingers the crumbs you left on the floor. I still search with my tongue for bits stuck in my teeth. I lick my lips and I wonder, are you doing the same for me? Am I still your secret favorite flavor? Does she taste as good? A couple days later, nah, something tells me she's dull, like home brand vanilla, but hey, I'm just jealous. I'm sure she's fucking delicious. Bon appetit. I wrote down our recipe, but I tweaked it a bit. A dash of great sex, that's always a hit. A few years of travel, but less girls on the side. A bit more honesty. A tad less pride. But hey, all in all, you were a legendary dish. We were this legendary combo like lemon and fish, an exotic blend. From the wine region to the sea, thanks for flavoring my life with MSG. Thank you. I performed that poem in Alice Springs at the Whanaon Summit last year, and a couple of the aunties from Alice here, I'm actually on a panel with them tomorrow talking about the Running Water Community Press and Alice and all the projects that they're working on. That's at 3 p.m. tomorrow if you're around. And when I met that auntie at the hotel yesterday, she went, dumplings. I was like, yeah, that was me. I would like to share a very special poem with you this evening. I wrote this poem for this newspaper that was published in 2021, the Sunday paper. It is a publication of Aboriginal and Palestinian solidarity. This was written in 2021. It's as relevant today as it was then, as it was in 1990, as it was in 1980, as it was in 1948. So here we are, and this was my contribution. The writing process, I spent weeks listening to podcasts and reading, and I had so much that I wanted to say, and there was so much that I wanted to say about the connection between the Palestinian struggle and ours. We know colonization and genocide when we see it. My heart and my solidarity is always with Palestine. And so this poem is called Only Words. What use is poetry, Palestine? I am scrolling through your suffering as bombs land in the beds of your children, divided by oceans, brought together by a screen. I grieve for you, Palestine. I have nothing to give but words, no matter the weight or ache or yearning for your release. I speak with your daughters, Palestine. We list all the things we would be if our existence wasn't predetermined by colonialism, if I wasn't busy trying to sew together all the missing and faded parts of me. I tell her I would bake cakes. She tells me she would deep dive oceans and seas. We would write love poems for sun-drenched summer days and publish them in deep red-bound books. Our laughter would bubble to the surface, and I could find something funnier in this world than my own misfortune to laugh at. We laugh loudly anyway, pushing our joy from the deep trenches of our sadness and longing, breaking through our fear. I would be soft enough to cry. She would be soft enough to break. I wonder what it must feel like to not have to be brave. I have only words, Philistine. Some days I barely even have hope. I dream for us and wonder of your creation stories. What brought the first olive seed to grow at our feet? How were your skies raised? What brings your rivers to meet? Who is listening to your morning calls and your night songs as your children sleep? I have only my words, Philistine. So I send the rains that rise from Delingwa to fall to the olive branches of Bethlehem, to raise the flowers of Lifta, to Gaza, rushing down the streets, to meet with your own spirit and join with our collective dream from our rivers to our seas until our lands are free. Thank you. And I have one final poem before we move on to the wonderful, beautiful, powerful Nadine. As an offering to everyone here today, to the strength of Aboriginal women and Palestinian women, and to our futures. The body of an Indigenous woman is one of the most policed bodies in the world. We've worn the bruises and broken bones from the ugliest methods of war, carried babies forced into our wombs, and lost our voices from screaming when you stole them from us. We wore fake smiles on our faces to survive forced assimilation. When our babies grew and they walked into the room, you forced their heads down into submission, trained them to be slaves, and dressed them in aprons. Once decorated in ceremonial scarification and ink, draped in the ocean's jewels and our animal skins, she glistened in poised tribalism when the colonizers' boats arrived. 200 years later, and you've bastardized our culture, reselling it back to us as bohemian, white, summertime tribal with a broad-rimmed hat. You can wear our patterns and our art with the jeweled rings to match without having to wear the rolled shoulders of child abduction and land theft. The body of an Indigenous woman is carved from the mountains, weathered from the rains. She sustains your blows and still walks with eyes to the sky. The body of an Indigenous woman has been beaten, mistreated, sexualized, tokenized, forcefully sterilized to minimize our population. Forcefully sterilized to minimize our population, which leads me to believe that you are fearful of this body. Built in all its glory, she is certainly something to be feared, to be revered. Heartfelt as her existence is, she sings the truth you do not want to hear. The presence of her skin brings echoes of our Creator. Sliding through the sands of time, our limbs glide in celebration of the rainbow serpent, and when you see us, the cells of your bodies recognize the energies of these lands. Of course you're scared of us. And so it became necessary and crucial to legitimize your theft and to maintain your control, to burden this body, to patrol this body, to lock up, silence, scrutinize, demonize this body, but we are not as malleable as you've led yourself to believe. Underneath this skin resides the full extent of our wisdom, our love, our strength. You'll try to silence us, erase us, move us, displace us, but we will grow. From seed to tree, from earth to sky, we rise. We resist. We birth. We exist. We are born. And then we die. But always, we rise. Thank you so much for having me.
Kia ora, tēnā koutou katoa. Just checking that you can hear me. I believe you can hear me. He mihi tēnei ki te hau kāinga, ki te mana o te whenua e pupuri ana ki ngā hika. My greetings to the people of the land, to the Indigenous peoples of Nam, and it's such a pleasure and a privilege to be here tonight. Ko Nadine and hora ahau, he uri tēnei no te tai no te tai tokorau, ki te taho talk about, but my ancestors are from the far north, and I'm beaming into you tonight from Wellington, where I met Lani Yuk during COVID. It's true. It is, I can't see you all, you can see me, but I'm talking to my own image here, so it's, forgive me, it's always a bit strange. It is amazing to hear Lani Yuk. I first heard her in, I think it was in a bookshop, and it floored me. So as soon as I received this invitation, I grabbed it with both hands, and it has been just awesome to hear the other poets tonight, and any opportunity for Indigenous collaborations are so appreciated. So my thanks and gratitude to Blak and Bright, amazing festival, would love to be there in person. And to the tech team who helped, have sorted me all out tonight, because I was a little bit stressed getting here. Yeah, it's just, yeah, hopefully next time we'll be able to, I'd love to come in person. I'm just going to share with you one one poem, one piece of writing. I am not known for short. But this one piece isn't long, but I'm an essayist traditionally. And though it's not a COVID poem, there is a reference there for me in the sense that, sorry, I thought that was a message from the tech team. That during COVID, my brother passed away, and we lost him to sadness and to exhaustion, and the poems that were read tonight really resonated with me. And when I look at the poems that I have to offer, I recognize the similarity in the stories, the struggle, the resistance. But what I want to share tonight is drawing from a different source. I really want to start to celebrate in my own writing Indigenous survival, Indigenous perseverance, Indigenous laughter. I feel really drawn to the light because, as Lani expressed so perfectly, settler colonialism is ongoing, and the one thing I think that we can see is the end. I think settler colonialism will bury itself in Israel, and we look forward to that with anticipation. But tonight I'm going to share with you a piece of writing called Indigenous Love, and it's inspired by the James Baldwin quote that the most vital things for the writer to describe are the habitual ways in which we imprison ourselves and relinquish our own freedom. Lois lives next to the sea. Her lover lives in a valley. A mountain range and a river lie between them. It's a 40-minute drive in traffic, but he rides a push bike. Every Saturday afternoon, after completing his work in the garden, he pedals down the motorway into a sharp southerly headwind and then up the steep ravine known as Nodanga. It takes him 1 hour in jandals. Lois asked him one day what it meant. The gorge, not the gesture. Assuming it had something to do with the gnawing and gnashing of teeth, no, and rising up from the roots, ranga, which sounded sweaty and mildly romantic. She could imagine his teeth grinding through the pain of each revolution, the look of commitment burning behind his eyes. But he said, nah, Nodanga means the place where the waka landed, na uranga. In the bathroom, his toothbrush stands in the cup holder, as straight and utilitarian as any, except it's bamboo. Some nights, Lois catches herself staring at it while standing in front of the mirror, her own electric toothbrush zizzing in the silence. A toothbrush is such a powerful symbol of ordinariness, evidence of quotidian rituals, the banality of Blak. Every spring since her brother died, which corresponds to the exact length of time the bamboo toothbrush has stood in the cup, he plants sunflower seeds in the garden. 3 so far, seasons, not sunflowers. The first didn't take, perhaps planted too eagerly before the frost had passed. The second summer, a single stalk emerged from the pot next to the glasshouse. But Lois was so busy with this or that, she didn't see the solitary bloom until it was burnt out and hung over with regret, wilting in the shade of neglect. This year, she made sure to pay attention. The formula is simple: distance divided by speed. In her inbox one day, a writing prompt lands. What would happen if you were truly free? For the privileged, white, cis, straight, able-bodied, know where I'm cleaning my teeth tonight, such questions belong to the intellectual sport of provocation. A second prompt probes for specificity. What would you write if you weren't afraid? Lois takes both questions to the sea. Next to the reporters wearing press vests in Gaza, her answers embarrass her. The truth is, the stories she loves the most are those in which nothing happens and everyone is ordinary. Stories refracted through the quotidian. If Lois were free, she'd write about the domestic, about the messiness of her unremarkable divorce and ordinary survival. She'd write about the gamble of staying, the risk of departure, the reward of living to write the tale. She'd write about the woman who went before her, the girl in the ice cream cart with "all you need is love" tattooed on her inner forearm, the AA insurance lady who said, "Honey, indecision is a burden heavier than the judgment of others," before charging her card $125 to insure, which she had to borrow the money to buy. She'd write about the mechanic who offered her a tissue and a cup of tea and wondered if loneliness, like the vast uncharted territory beside her in bed at night, through another prism, could represent possibility. She'd write about the guilt she never felt, the regret that never came, the wonder instead of the breadth of her own wingspan, and the discovery that liberation is as simple and as hard-earned as a single unobstructed breath. If Lois were unafraid, she would not need permission to publish the things she wrote in secret. She wouldn't need Renee standing over her every Wednesday telling her to stop fucking about and get on with it. A deal's a deal, and not everyone likes what a busker plays. The only question that matters is, do you like what you play? If Lois were free, she wouldn't be embarrassed to be so fucking earnest. A closet romantic. "You can't get lost if you follow your heart," scribbled in pencil across her most private journal. Hallmark aspirations. Pablo Neruda winces in his eternal sleep. "Awk," writes an editor in the margin of one particular unpublished essay, meaning awkward. Yet, even cynics cannot deny that distance divided by speed means you've only got now this one single moment to take hold of the person in front of you and declare all that you know to be true. I love you. I love you. I breathe and I know I love you. I know it because of love's former absence, which means I must love the other too for what he forced me to risk. This is the terror and the gift, the thing all the other women promised. You'll never regret the gamble, and no future moment is guaranteed, only the next season. So maybe then Lois would write about the way the jandaled man props his bike up in the garage, removes the expensive helmet she obliged him to buy, since he insists on riding his push bike from the valley to the sea, all the way through the depths of the winter's hail. She described the joy of his returning, the front door code access not more than once a week, and the bustling reception of 3 generations of women reveling in the brief company of a non-violent man. If Lois were truly free, she'd admit the funny joke that she was the last to recognize this as love until it was standing tall in her garden, upright in the cup in her bathroom. She would not need to write stories about herself in the third person. Kia ora. Thank you so much for having me.